the MBA education industry in India is just really ripe for disruption, because everybody has been just minting money on the name of an MBA but just leaving students high and dry. Few privileged set of people who are getting really lucky with left-brained examination, who are able to arrange the funds, are able to study at top 30 FT universities. And that really made me question, can I really kill this privilege? There was AICT report that more than 220 schools actually shut down because they couldn't really provide jobs to those MBA students. Why the hell do you just need a 720 or a 730 GMAT score if you're an Indian male engineer, right? I have a very big problem with the lack of standardized examination in India. Few schools will ask for CAT, few schools will ask for NMAT, few schools will ask for another ZAT, etc.
So why do you want to kill that privilege of left-brain people getting into top-notch MBA programs, learning skill sets, and getting good job?
So if McKinsey and company understands that we just do not need engineers in the house or MBAs in the house, we also need philosophers in the house, we also need economists in the house. You do not need more than high school math to be able to learn the kind of data analytics which is needed at leading data analytics firms. It's almost like the marshmallow test that Harvard took, that at an age of 3 or 4, they put up 3 or 4 kids together and they said that if you wait for 5 minutes, then it's almost funny test, right? If you wait for 5 minutes, then we are going to give you more marshmallows. And people who waited eventually became successful in life. I think that's bull crap. Hi Naman, how are you doing?
Hi Shatakshi, I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I am doing really well. Cheers on chai, as we do yet another discussion on my channel. And I have gotten to know that you have interesting things on your mind to hold a discussion with me. So over to you.
Should I say welcome to your podcast?
Yes, you should say that. Welcome to my podcast.
Okay, so I think this podcast, to be brutally honest, will be of extreme relevance for any youngster who is contemplating of doing an MBA or is, in a way, a mid-career and wants to grow in the world of private sector, because the discussion will hover around those concepts. So as we proceed with the journey, I would want to learn more about you so that the audience can further gauge. And what is your story of starting the GGI MBA?
Sure, Naman, that's a very good question. And I'll share a story, and I also have stats to back that up. Let's start with the story. So I will go back to 2018 when I was an ISB MBA student. As much as I really got a lot out of ISB MBA, and I had a very long journey to go through cracking the GMAT, arranging the funds, and just mentally and emotionally being ready to sign up for an MBA. When I walked the paths where a lot of legendary leaders like Rajat Gupta, who started and had dreams about ISB as an institution, I realized how privileged I was. When I was sitting in my sections and corresponding sections and attending classes around strategy, finance and operations and whatnot, I looked around and looked at the kind of people who could afford a whooping 33 lakhs and upward, and now it cost somewhere around 50 lakhs of fees at ISB. You have something to say?
I'm astounded. It's 50 lakh. Are you serious?
I have been told, I have not checked the website directly, but a lot of students of ours at GGI have told us it's now costing 50 lakhs and upwards. And I realized how privileged I was. What if I couldn't really crack GMAT? And I've always been very open with my GMAT story. I got it right in my third attempt. What if I couldn't really arrange the funds? It was part financed by my parents, part eventually I took a debt to actually got that right. That really helped me it really made me humble, and it really made me question the kind of privileged ecosystem I was part of. And then eventually I went to Harvard Business School, and oh my, the kind of privilege that you really get in that ecosystem of Cambridge. You are surrounding yourself with really international community, but the entire ecosystem costs somewhere around 1.5 crores. And I got it absolutely free of cost because I was an exchange student at Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy that made me attend few classes at Harvard. So that kind of entire experience helped me understand that few privileged set of people who are getting really lucky with left-brained examination, who are able to arrange the funds, are able to study at top 30 FT universities and FT 30 MBA schools. And that really made me question, can I really kill this privilege? And if I were to be very candid, there are very few people who get privilege of a lifetime and then try to kill privilege for other people. So that's my personal story why I thought of starting Global Governance Initiative MBA Scholar Program. And just to add more data point on it, my class was very homogeneous at ISB and fairly at Harvard as well in terms of gender representation. ISB in India, for example, is really high on gender representation, but was it 50-50? Absolutely not. Similar is the case with Harvard Business School. And that was another reason why I personally felt really passionate. In fact, at GGI MBA Scholar Program, 55% of the representation is by women. So those are my personal two anecdotes that really shook me up and built a case for me to actually start GGI MBA Scholar Program. Now, if I were to add statistic to it, there are more than 5,500 MBA schools in India. Statistics show that only 7% of them are employable candidates, which means that you are leaving 93% of the candidates high and dry. There was AAI CT report that more than 220 schools actually shut down because they couldn't really provide jobs to those MBA students. And rightfully so, if you are not able to provide the jobs for which the students signed up for that postgrad degree, you better be shut down. But think of all the students who actually put in their hard-earned parents' money, if not their own money, in those schools. Moreover, I have had problems with the curriculum that is being taught. So Indra Nui, who is an output of Yale SOM, another BCG alum who in fact led PepsiCo at a global level, she has made her comments how the entire curriculum of MBA is becoming obsolete. Infosys founder Narayan Murthy has had comments around the contemporary education ecosystem in IITs and IIMs where they are actually still preparing young professionals for the industrialist age that India was actually visioning about in the 1990s. So the curriculum has not really been advanced. Another problem at a statistic level is that if you go to the leading IIMs in India, more than 80% of the students are not really working professionals. They are undergrads, they are freshers. MBA is supposed to be a professional degree. It's not an academic degree. People are treating it like a placement agency, but a large proportion of your learning in an MBA school comes from your cohort. I learned a great deal in my Harvard and ISB classroom from people who were coming from merchant navy, who were doctors or who were lawyers or who were chartered accountants, so on and so forth. And the fact that at least the 99% of schools in India are equal on gender, are not equal on the kind of work experience that people bring to the table. So that's another statistical problem that I have had with the MBA education system in India. And last, I would say I have a very big problem with the lack of standardized examination in India. Few schools will ask for CAT, few schools will ask for NMAT, few schools will ask for another ZAT, etc. Which means that, and that is one thing that I appreciate at least about the westernized MBA schools. They have one exam, it's a standard exam, GMAT, and it's been proven that it is a very good indicator of at least analytical skills. So those are largely my personal reasons, my personal story, and at a statistical level why I feel that the MBA education industry in India is just really ripe for disruption, because everybody has been just minting money on the name of an MBA but just leaving students high and dry. And I'm picking up the cause of those students and really trying to build something up that can not just help them get a job but actually leave them upskilled by surrounding themselves in an ecosystem which is really diverse on international index and also diverse on gender and work experience index as well.
Fascinating. But the question is, why do you want to kill that privilege of left-brain people getting into top-notch MBA programs, learning skill sets, and getting good job, so on and so forth? I mean, why would you want to kill that?
Sure. Your answer, I think, Naman, is in the question itself, because it uses the word privilege. The fact that it's a left-brained exam, it suits people who have perhaps already cleared engineering. It suits for people who are already from IIT. Kind of gives an answer in itself, which is that it's not inclusive exam. So my question to you then is, after MBA, are people just picking up left-brained roles? My answer would be absolutely not, right? If after MBA you pick up marketing, you can pick up branding. Of course, there are roles which are hard code on numbers, such as finance. And even in management consulting, a large part of it is analytical also in nature. But my question lies in the fact that Homo sapiens as a species, we have varied aspects to our creativity, to our skills, and the way we look at the world and the problems. and we have created an examination which is favoring people with who are actually really strong on left brain side of the equation, and that could also be a lot of nurturing, a lot of ecosystem you are part of. So for example, my father is a math genius, I know that, and it helped me immensely eventually in my life to be able to crack a lot of exams. But then I think of all those families where your father is not a math genius, where you're not building or growing up in an ecosystem where your elder brother, elder sister, or your father is not a math genius. So I believe the answer lies in the question itself. That's a privilege, and that privilege is actually creating an ecosystem of us versus them, and that privilege for a very large base of jobs is actually not even required, because jobs are an intermix of left-brained and right-brained work, and that is where a lot of innovation really takes place.
Okay, so regardless of MBA and regardless of left brain or right brain, if I were to work in consulting, is it a left brain industry or a right brain industry?
That's a very good question.
Because usually people do an MBA to pivot into certain roles. Consulting is one, finance is another, banking, product management. Are these industries left brainy or right brainy?
That's a very good question, and I fear if I'm going to be painting with a very broad brush by calling an industry left-brained only or right-brained only. I'm not going to give that answer directly, but I am going to have a lot of anecdotes about it. Let's pick the example of McKinsey & Company. I know of friends who studied philosophy in their undergraduate and they went into to work in management consulting, and eventually I know a lot of economists as well who did either their undergrad or their postgrad from economics either in St. Stephen's College, LSR or Oxford University to go on and work in McKinsey. Now in India, if you categorize economics, it's a science degree. Right? Sorry, I take my words back. It's an arts degree. So for example, in St. Stephen's College, it's BA Economics. But outside India, it's many a times, it's a science degree. So economics as a subject could be an art, could also be a science, because it really depends. You are tussling between a lot of resources. You are trying to, for example, increase GDP at the expense of current account deficits, so on and so forth. So if McKinsey & Company understands that we just do not need engineers in the house or MBAs in the house, we also need philosophers in the house, we also need economists in the house. Why? Because at the end, so that's one example. Let me pick up another example of Martin Reeves. Martin Reeves is the current chairman of BCG Henderson Institute. He has taught at GGI as well. He talks about, he actually had a book on innovation, creativity and innovation, the innovation engine. He has written Harvard Business Review articles that your strategy needs a strategy. My perception, what I absorbed from his book was that people really need to stop thinking in boxes, that you need to stop creating boxes around problems. And you can kill those boxes when you create teams which are diverse at a perspective level, at a mind level, at a degree level as well. So there are very strong, I would say, examples and anecdotes which support the fact that management consulting requires as much as liberal arts students as much as it requires engineers and MBAs in the house. Having said this, I've been an ex-BCG management consultant. A large proportion of my job did require me structuring, did require a lot of problem solving, did require an analytical thinking. But I also believed I've been in discussion rooms with chairmen and in meeting rooms where a lot of I would say innovation and creative thinking was also taking place. So that's my intermixed answer. I would not like to put boxes to the question. It's a very interesting question, but I think strong supporting data points lie on either of the side.
Fantastic. So just to add on to what you just mentioned, I think even Rajat Gupta, when he came to and spoke at GGI, he mentioned that I think industry is ripe for innovation, where you can have right brainy people who know how to leverage the left brain. So for example, to run linear regressions in his age, you would require a lot of technical expertise. But today, by leveraging certain tools, you can easily solve plethora of problems innovatively, right? So fantastic. So what I get right now is that, genetically speaking, or, the behavioral science perspective point of view, there are certain people who are not meant to clear exams. They can be very smart, but they're terrible test takers. And because of that inability to crack exams, they are devoid of a lot of opportunities. Could be in form of getting into top MBA program, could be getting access to great communities and networks, and else. So you are saying that via GGI MBA, you want to cater to that sort of audience?
Sure.
Is that the program profile for the people, or are you still open to take up folks who are strong with data or strong with analysis, and they can also participate in your program?
Sure. It's a very good question, and I will really resonate on this. I'm a terrible test taker. I couldn't really crack IIT examination. I still could crack CBSE to be eventually sitting in St. Stephen's College. Took so many attempts to get my GMAT right. So I have a lot of empathy for people who do not get their exams right. And I really like the world of startup. For example, it is coming up with a lot of beautiful examples of people who were terrible test takers, but eventually are able to have a lot of good career for themselves. So that's point number one. Point number two, it is one of the many use cases of GGI MBA Scholars Program. When I talk about killing the privilege, examination is one of the many privileges I'm talking about. In fact, if I were to be candid, we also ask for standardized test scores. But are those mandatory? Absolutely not. It is optional. It helps us gauge your current skill set, whether you are going to be able to handle the analytical rigor of the program. But there are 10 parameters, for example, for you to be selected in GGI. And GMAT score is just one of them. And that's also optional. It is not like a criteria of the top MBA schools in India that or of the world that you have to be 720 or 730 GMAT if you're an Indian male engineer, and that is how you are going to get an entry, right? So I appreciate that tests are required. My fight is not against just tests only, but my fight is that you are not creating inclusive ecosystem. Nobody is actually questioning why the hell do you need that test. And I want to be part of that narrative where we start questioning on basics. Why the hell do you just need a 720 or a 730 GMAT score if you're an Indian male engineer, right? There are multiple other aspects of your journey. You could have been a fantastic architect and you want to do an MBA. You could be a doctor and you still want to do an MBA. You could be an entrepreneur and you want to do an MBA. And if you're just a terrible test taker, and if you're not having a space on the table or a seat on the table at the top Ivy League school, there will be still scope for you at GGI, provided you write very good applications to us.
That's a good point, but there are two reasons actually spoken out loud by various agencies. I think it's GMAC who has written these very interesting papers. This perhaps might be laced with biases because GMAC in a way promotes the GMAT exam. Is people who usually do good in the GMAT paper or in these standardized tests, they tend to perform better in the graduate school degree. That's the one argument. And second is because these universities don't have many options, because in a way, the ranking of the business school has a huge component of GMAT score. When Financial Times doles out rankings, which are extremely important for these MBA programs to market, GMAT is again taking a lot of share there. So these are two arguments put forth. What are your thoughts on these arguments?
That's a very good question. And I understand the argument. When you're dealing with applications in multiples of thousands, you need a test score indicator to be able to put filter in it, right? Perhaps at GGI we get 10,000 applications every year, but perhaps let's say someday I might have more number of applications. I might also need a quantitative indicator. But does that mean I will change my vision or we will change our vision? Absolutely not, right? So that's point number one. Point number two, it's a very good argument to be the owner of GMAT. You have no choice, but a smart person would try to build a correlation analysis to build the fact that people who take GMAT, they do well in life. Let me try to ask them, what about the other analysis? Did you pick up people who did not take GMAT? And what are they doing with their lives, right? So it's almost like the marshmallow test that Harvard took, that at an age of 3 or 4, we both know about that test, right? They put up 3 or 4 kids together and they said that if you wait for 5 minutes, then it's almost funny test, right? If you wait for 5 minutes, then we are going to give you more marshmallows. And people who waited eventually became successful in life. I think that's bull crap eventually. There could be multiple other indicators for people who did not take the marshmallow test. So what I'm trying to say, there is another argument for it. In fact, McKinsey is notoriously infamous for it. McKinsey and company in the late 1990s and early 2000s came up with this entire argument that you need nerds to be able to actually advance the causes of the clients of Fortune 500. And it became fantastic argument for McKinsey and company. And then BCG, Bain and many other companies followed the suit. But at the heart of the things, and I've said this at many other platforms, I am not a 99.9% CAT scorer, right? I took CAT and I've been very famously celebrated my failure journey in CAT when I was, I did not even put a very strong attempt at it, but when I was in undergrad. I scored somewhere around 700 in my GMAT. I went to BCG. I was a successful management consultant there. So then the question arises, do you really need 99.9% or percentile score to be able to get into McKinsey company or BCG, etc.? Absolutely not. We have talked about Janmejaya Sinha. He's not even an MBA. Janmejaya Sinha is the current BCG chairman, right? He studied at Cambridge. He studied liberal arts from St. Stephen's College, etc. That means that at the heart of things, you need other skill set. But the world is just facing the problem that they do not want to go through that hassle of finding or shortlisting people without a quantitative test score. So they are taking up the lazy route. GMAT has made an exam, CAT has made an exam, so on and so forth. So let's just try to put a filtering mechanism through that. But if the world start taking a much more rigorous route or a non-lazy route, I'm very sure that people like Janmejaya Sinha would have stood out. I'm just thinking, if there were Janmejaya Sinha would have never become the BCG India chairman if all people who were just invited to BCG, McKinsey or an MBA were just test takers. So that's my answer to your question.
I think we'll delve deeper into the curriculum also for GGI, but basis the information that I obviously have, there is a lot of component of data analysis in GGI. My question is, you need certain level of qualitative or quantitative analysis skills to internalize or learn through the curriculum. But if you're not testing people based on certain standardized test scores, how will you ensure that these scholars who come into the program, they're learning skill sets?
Sure. It's a very good argument. And because I'm one of also the instructors at GGI along with the CEOs and chairman, I have realized one thing: you do not need more than high school math to be able to learn the kind of data analytics which is needed at leading data analytics firms such as Mu Sigma and whatnot. And without taking the name of the firm, we are also in chat with one of the global data firm, and he's trying to reduce the age bracket of his analysts from 24 to 19. That means they also realize that the tests, the universities model is absolutely failing. What you need is just high school math. So what I'm trying to say is, you do not need those data points of GMAT. And I kind of, between CAT and GMAT, I like the GMAT way a little bit more. I could have my own biases because it has limited syllabus. It will tell you that you need probability, you need statistics, so on and so forth to be able to take the test. But coming back, the entire syllabus is actually high school only. But I'm trying to say, let's just talk about linear regression. Linear regression is nothing but actually just an equation y equals to 3x plus 2. It's linear regression. We have all learned that in high school. We have all drawn that simple linear chart in your computer science class. So what I'm largely trying to say is, just because someone didn't get a 710 in GMAT or just because someone didn't get a 99.9 percentile in CAT, you are debarring that person from learning linear regression or data analytics from an Ivy League school. You do not need that level of scoring to be able to teach someone, right? And that is what I'm trying to say. Even to be able to successful to become a job, and that's the argument I'm trying to make, is, are the top data firms in globally, right, or even management consultants, are they hiring these ACE test takers? Absolutely not, right? In fact, I have a counter argument to this entire exercise. If I go back to St. Stephen's College, and that's almost 10 years ago, right, most of the best I would say university rank holders are not doing great. In fact, I'm one of the university rank holder. For the first 3 to 4 years after St. Stephen's College, I didn't do much. I struggled a lot to get job. I didn't have the required skill set. I eventually picked up those skills. So did the university rank, the test taking mechanism really help me a lot? Absolutely not. And a lot of people, I'm sure, know of those examples where their friend who graduated 10 years ago but was at the top of the class is not doing as better as you would have expected them to be. Once again, the data could be molded anyways, right? GMAT could come up and say that these are the top test takers and they are doing great. Then I would ask for another 10 non-test takers and they are doing great as well. So the data could be skewed on all sides. I am fighting for a non-inclusive ecosystem, and that's what my fight is against. It could be because of finance, it could be because of gender, it could be because of examination as well.
Got it. So you can run multiple variate regression models. You can also learn design thinking. You can do so many things, from problem solving to logical thinking to curricular analysis, without having those expertise in solving the GMAT paper or the GRE paper. Point well taken. My question is, there are so many alternative MBA schools coming up. In such a scenario, how is GGI different from those XYZ schools in the same industry?
That's a very good question. First and foremost, I have a lot of respect to all the people or the leaders who are starting alternative MBA schools or alternative schools overall, because they are visionary folks. They realize that the education industry is becoming is just minting money on the name of examination or on the existing models, right? So first and foremost, I have a lot of respect for them. I will not compare myself to them. I will compare myself to Harvard Business School, right? And after experiencing Harvard Business School, what I realized is any fantastic education system thrives or becomes a legacy institution if you are actually sitting on 3 pillars of success. Number 1 is learning, number 1 is community, and number 3 is employment opportunity. A McKinsey associate or a BCG associate or a BlackRock or a Blackstone associate will go to Harvard Business School not thinking whether I will get a job or not. They know you are going to get a job after Harvard Business School. But they join HBS because of the community they are going to surround themselves in, because of the classroom intellectual rigor they are going to surround themselves in, and because of the legacy of Harvard. They are not even thinking about employment because that's going to be obvious. Those are the 3 same fundamental pillars we have emulated together at GGI. Number 1 is learning. You are going to be not just sitting in lecture and just learn theory and gyan. You are going to be sitting in Socratic style debate model where you are going to be learning about strategy, operation, data analytics, climate impact, ethics as well, right? Becoming holistic in your learning, whereby CEOs and chairmen will come and teach you. Not just academicians, not just PhD folks, because they are just so far away from the market realities. They cannot really help you become future leaders. The people who are leaders can actually help you to train, become future leaders and job ready. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, at GGI there is an immense focus to actually make sure that you are surrounding yourself in a diverse ecosystem. I think it's the only community in India where engineers are in a minority, where women are actually comprising 55% of the cohort. You name it, there are medical doctors in the classroom, there are journalists in the classroom, there are lawyers in the classroom, there are marketeers, there are data scientists, there are of course engineers and tech folks as well. And when they come together and solve problems around climate impact, around FMCG or around cryptocurrencies or around public policy or around impact investment, whether you should be giving some amount of money as an impact investor to an asset or not, the kind of learnings that you have are completely unparalleled. And of course there is a strong component of internationalization as well. People from US, people from London, people from Mexico are joining our classroom. And I get a very common question, Shatakshi, are those going to be different classroom? And I say no, it's one global classroom that we are building. I know it's a very tough task to build because we are time zone apart, right? But we are trying our best so that people from US or Pacific time zone to Indian time zone are sitting in one global classroom. That's the second point. And last but not the least, I want to eventually build a vision in GGI where people are not even thinking about jobs. Jobs is for a given. People are literally taking per person 2 to 3 jobs at GGI. Of course, there are management consulting firms hiring from GGI, from India. And in fact, their New York offices are also coming and asking, are there people in US or based out of US? And of course, the answer is yes as well. There are product management organizations and for roles people are hiring. There are public policy enthusiasts and government firms which are hiring, think tanks, so on and so forth. But the vision is to build a legacy in alternative school. And we are not even providing degree. And I carry that answer on my sleeve, right? People ask me, will I get a degree or not? And I say, no, if you're looking for degrees, then GGI is not an answer for you. It is a bold initiative for the bold, courageous folks who are ready to take a bet upon themselves. That's the culture, and that's why we are going to be different, and we are playing a long-term game, and that is a long-term vision that we are fighting for.
But Chitakshi, I'm born in, let's say, an Indian family, a South Asian family. For me, my parents will be against the idea of pursuing an alternative degrees. They would rather want me to follow the traditional route, get a good job, ideally the one that pays the best. For me, that is of extreme importance. So if I were to think of GJ in that context, what kind of jobs can I expect? What's the usual salary look like for all those who have graduated so far? Does GJ help with second job or third job? How is the alumni community look like? Is it just confined to India, or do we have partnerships abroad? If yes, how? If no, what are the plans? What are your thoughts on this?
That's a very good question, Aman. And I sense that you're asking me three things about degrees. My parents are obsessed about degree and they are not going to be comfortable me taking a bet upon GGI or any other alternative school. Second is about the jobs outside as well. And third is about the statistics around our employment report. Happy to take all three of them. My first answer is going to be not very lucrative, and it's also kind of inspired by Elon Musk. Elon Musk was once asked why the Tesla stock is tanking, and in a crowded meeting, he was asked, why don't you make a case that people should invest in Tesla? And he said, I have never made a case for purchasing Tesla stock, and I will never make a case for purchasing Tesla stock. That's my stance on GGI as well. I am never going to tell people come and join GGI because of these three reasons. If you are not convinced, that's fine, right? In any new innovation or disruption, there are early adopters and then there are followers. Perhaps you're a follower, good for you. I am looking for early adopters, right? I'm a courageous, bold entrepreneur, and there are 5,500 people who are part of the proof overall who have taken a bet upon us. It's okay, you could be part of that next wave, third wave, fourth wave, of so on and so forth. But I will never convince someone that yes, this is the place to come. In a world of marketeers and salespeople, I would in fact always say that if you have a doubt, don't join GGI, right? It's a magical place. We are creating magic, but if you have doubt, it's fine. Not this year, next year, whenever you are ready, but I will never convince you. That's my first answer. My second answer on the employment report. It's a very good question. That we have OCS, which is called Office of Career Services. It's largely built on the idea that at some point of time, you and I as co-founders have to take a back seat, and the entire alumni and the student community is going to take a front seat. And Office of Career Services is one of the many initiatives that we are taking on those lines. Now, there are more than 65 plus employment partners. This number might seem small, but when you're dealing with management consulting, product management and public policy industry, it's a very good number because it's a niche industry, and few of the impact investors are also part of it. They come and hire from GGI. Many of the employers have hired not just once but twice. In fact, Mentera, who is in fact one of our leading employment partner, his CEO has taught at our organization, not just hired once but twice, and the CTC was in the range of upward of 30 lakhs, right? That's one example. Tech Mahindra, for their management consulting roles, have hired not just once but twice, and their CTC have been upward of 24 and 25 lakhs, right? So on and so forth. Our highest ever has been for 42 lakhs. Our average is hovering around 18 lakhs. I know it is less than the conventional MBA programs, but we are not just looking for your first job. That is where our answer for second, third, fourth job, so on and so forth comes in. We are not just going to be looking at you for your first job and just leave you high and dry. If after IIM Bangalore you get your first job and you don't want it, right? Then what happens? Then nothing happens, right? At GGI Alumni, we will continue to support our alumni community. Having said this, I have a personal problem when people just treat placement agency as placement agency. They do not focus on nurturing themselves for their networking effect or networking initiative as well. There's a very strong component in GJ of networking. We teach you how to network with speakers. We teach you how to network with the community members. Many community members are already having the kind of dream job that you would want, right? Or you are joining GJ having the dream job of someone else as well. So there's a very strong component of networking. And there are ethos at GJ that if you have gotten your job, then you step behind and let others shine as well. So that's my second answer on the kind of jobs that we get, placement figures, and if we support our alumni. Alumni initiative is one of the strongest initiatives at GGI. Then the third question is, are we providing jobs outside of India or for people who are outside of India? The short answer is yes, but the statistics are pretty low. Currently, we are winning the India market. I do not want to be a mediocre solution for everyone. I want to be a strong solution first for people who are based out of India, and then start moving towards the next of the market. As you and I both know, in 2023, Dubai and UAE is a very strong market. In fact, just today, the first employment partner for a management consulting role in Dubai has been released, and that's the answer that we are building next for Dubai market as well. A lot of GGIs from Australia, from Mexico, from Paris, London, Texas, etc. join. They are getting jobs through their own network. In future, we would want to build a global school. That's the vision. But that answer is going to be slow. I've been in meetings where people have asked me, where do you have your campus, or what kind of degree do you provide? It's a long journey. It's a fight, but employers are appreciating. They're in fact coming back. Any good solution or any good product is a parameter of, does your user return to you? So if employers are returning to us, asking for more talent for management consulting, strategy, PM and policy role. That means we have built a very good network for ourselves. That's my long answer to your 3-point question.
I like how you have segmented this entire narrative, that the kind of jobs that GGIs get are in these industries. These are aspirational industries. It's very easy to get a job in startup. I think when you do an MBA program, when you go into an MBA degree, your dream is to get into McKinsey's and BCG's and BlackRock's of the world. You don't dream of working in a startup.
Right.
It's a compromise that you might make, even though the learning experience is going to be exponential in startups. But the usual dream is to start your career with an established organization. And I love the bet that you have taken in terms of getting these youngsters placed in these top-notch industries in impact investing, to management consulting, to policy consulting, so on and so forth.
Sure.
Now, my question is, you've told that people like Indra Nui had in the past or in the present as well have questioned the curriculum for an MBA program. What is the criticism and how are you solving for it in GGI via the curriculum that we have designed?
Sure, that's a very good point. From what I recall about the criticism, either by Indra Nui or by Infosys founder, is largely around the contemporariness, which is that we are all collectively living in the most disruptive time ever in future skills or in jobs. You need to be able to become comfortable with emerging technologies such as IoT, such as artificial intelligence. Knowing just about ChatGPT or using ChatGPT is very different than deploying something around ChatGPT or artificial intelligence on a public policy or in a shipping case on a real assignment. Similarly, data analytics, so on and so forth. So there is an entire industry or a knowledge around tech. That's point number one. Then there is an entire industry or a theme around entrepreneurship. How do you teach entrepreneurship to people? There are arguments, can you teach leadership to people, or can you really teach entrepreneurship to people? But I genuinely believe it's a mindset that can be nurtured. Are you teaching people how to actually go on and solve problems in a chaotic market or in an unorganized market? So that's the second theme. The third and the most important theme to my mind is an entire argument around inclusiveness or responsible capitalism. In a world where people are questioning, and Harvard Business School themselves questioned that we just do not want to, that the fiduciary duty of organization should not be just around increasing shareholder value. It is also about increasing stakeholder. That means that you are equally responsible to the consumer or to the manager who is not having not holding shareholders in your organization. So that's the third point. Then there is a fourth argument around public policy and governance, that do you just want to teach people things around corporates, right? Should you not make them ready around macroeconomics or public policy or around the entire narrative that's taking place that the economy is going for a tank? And then there is a fifth argument around liberal arts, right? Why should an MBA student not really learn about philosophy and psychology when a lot of these components, and many people actually paint liberal arts with a very broad brush that these degrees do not get you a job. But I genuinely believe that a lot of philosophy and psychology can be applied in job interviews, and that can make you actually stand apart from a lot of other candidates who are sitting in the interviews as well. So from these 5 fundamental pillars which are not being provided in a conventional MBA program, at GGI you will go through 5 things. Number 1 are famous and the flagship live and interactive masterclasses with the CEOs. There are 9 masterclasses. They have been handpicked. They have been carefully curated. We started with public policy masterclass. Our latest edition was emerging technology and data analytics masterclass. The second masterclass is liberal arts. There is public policy masterclass. There is impact investment masterclass. There is strategy and management consulting and sustainability masterclass. There is MBA for impact masterclass, where you learn marketing, finance, economics, literally in 10 hours, so on and so forth, whereby you literally immerse yourself on a weekend, and in a Harvard case style format, never ever just a theory will be thrown to you. You will be actually solving real cases actually solved by these chairmen and by these CEOs. So that's first at a curriculum level. Then the second one is assignment. Feynman, who is a very famous physicist, in fact I owe a great deal of my teaching style to him, said that no student can actually learn in just a classroom. There's a lot of post-learning that happens, which is learning by solving a problem at your own individual pace. So there is a very strong component of assignments at GGI, and real practical assignments that can help you crack a job, that can help you get a promotion, that can advance your communication skills as well, around linear regression, around Indigo or Southwest case studies, so on and so forth. The third component, my component, is a buddy program, whereby after every 3 weeks, you will be mapped to a new person in GGI to just solve case interviews. They will actually give each other feedback on their case interview style. Case interviews are not just asked in today's day and age in just management consulting. They are asked for category manager job. They are asked for any job where bit of thinking is also employed. And I love that. People are not just asking you technical rote learning based knowledge. They are checking, can you solve problems? They actually give each other feedback on their CVs as well, on their career cover letters as well. So that's the third component. The fourth component, once again, my favorite, is a starter weekend. In GGI, people literally find people who can be co-founders with them. They pick up problems at the intersection of tech, climate impact, governance, etc. And they actually find solutions and build an MVP model to be able to become startup weekend and founders themselves. And last but not the least is largely, I would say, GGI projects, where once again people surround themselves in teams and solve a lot of cutting edge problems. So sorry, there is one more important component that I really missed, which is Schrodinger and Trinity. Schrodinger is our internal in-house AI software, which is, I love the story of Schrodinger, if I were to be very candid, which is that we wanted literally to reduce the value of a mentor within GGI also, which is that you actually come at 12 o'clock, you want to practice a case. 2 days after, you have a Dalberg shortlist, or you have an FSG or a BCG shortlist, and you want to learn case solving. 12 o'clock, 1 in the midnight, you can do a case by yourself, you can learn how case solving is done, and you can get a solution. Similarly, on Trinity, we have collected the entire intelligence of Rajat Gupta, Janmay Jayasena, Martin Reeves, Aparna, and Charles Corn, who are the famous McKinsey, BCG, Bain chairmen, CEOs and partners. We always wanted to make sure the last 4 years of the leadership and the intelligence we have collected at GGI always keeps on passing to the future batches as well. It's a long answer. The entire detailed curriculum is 2-page long, but in a nutshell, I can synthesize in these 5-point fashion, moving back to the 5 pillars of failures that's happening at a curriculum level in the modern age MBA programs, so-called modern age, if I were to say them.
So let me move on to the last question, which is an extremely important question for youngsters, because many youngsters, they want to learn from international experts. They want to immerse themselves in an ecosystem such as this, but it is extremely expensive. So what is going to be the pricing of the entire GGI experience? And if for some reason I'm not able to afford it, what can I do?
That's a very good question and relevant one, and I'm glad that you asked me about it. There is no one right answer. In a same global classroom, people could be sitting with different answers, and I'll also tell you the reason why. There are 2 parameters that decide the amount that you are going to pay at GGI. Number 1 is, are you signing up for a 3-month MBA program at GGI or a 6-month MBA program? And we provide that flexibility because 90% of GGIans are working professionals. It's weekend only program. Few people have less availability, few people can commit for a 6-month program. 80% of GGIans commit for a 6-month program. So your pricing could differ at that parameter level. That's answer number 1. Answer number 2 is, there is always going to be a place for people in GGI who have the merit, who have the rigor, who have the talent, but do not have the means to pay for it. So that means that there is always need-based scholarship for people, provided you have the legit paperwork, because we have seen a lot of people who just want to ask for money. And I actually want to unfortunately quote an example. There was someone who was living in Dubai, was actually earning a lot in dollars, yet asked for need-based scholarship. And on the contrary, I ended up giving a need-based scholarship for a student in Bihar who really couldn't afford it and actually had good quality internship experience in ISRO. So every time that student will come on the doors of GGI, there will be a need-based scholarship answer to it. So I'm not going to quote a number. The exact number right now is sitting on the application form, provided you clearly read the entire application form. In fact, that also allows me an opportunity to answer one question. People ask me for the selection criteria. Each and every question on that application form is a criteria in itself. It's an essay-based application. So if you are interested, put a very diligent attempt at it. Otherwise, save your time, save my team's time. We are going to be reading, my team is going to be reading each and every word, and the amount is also sitting there. At a hard criteria level, I know you didn't ask me this question, but I get this question very often, Naman. The hard criteria is that you need to be in the age bracket of 17 till 35. If you are in that age bracket, you can apply. The selection will depend, of course, upon the quality of application that you put. Many people ask me that, Satakshi, we are 36, we are 37, why not GGI for you? I understand you. I feel sorry that you are in a state like that. I have a 2-point answer. The entire mission of GGI is to empower youngsters and females to start having a seat on the table in business and public policy role. In future, maybe we will start a new program for you if you are above the age of 25. But right now, we want to build, and we are building, an extraordinary alternative school education model for few people. I want to make few people extraordinarily happy, then a large bunch of people mediocrely happy. So it's an extended answer to the question you didn't ask, but I still felt personally, morally responsible to give that answer as well.
Makes sense. And thank you so much for giving such detailed answers to all the burning questions. Any last word for the audience?
That's a very good podcast, and Aman, we both know we are co-founders of GGI, but I loved the fact that you were probing each and every mental models that I have. It's always very encouraging to question, and I think that's a very good segue for me to actually end this entire podcast, which is that if you have element of curiosity in your life on basics, don't just accept status quo in your family, on the dinner table, in your school, or in your office, right? The moment you stop accepting status quo as is, then you will be able to become a learner for life. And if you're a learner for life, I'm very sure that you will be able to go to multiple places. So that's my last 2 cents before we wrap up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I wish the audience all the very best. Hope they had a great time listening to this podcast. Regardless of GGI, I'm fairly certain, I'm very sure that all of you are destined for glory. So all the very best, good luck, and take care.
Perfect. I completely resonate to that. Thanks a lot.